together. Welcome back. It is Springfield's Morning News, and William J. Kelly taken to the streets to talk with migrants about how DACA recipients could possibly become police officers, and he ran into some not too friendly voices from time to time. Doesn't want camera pointed at him, but he goes up to others asking them if they... Go check the entire video out, all right? It's rather fascinating. And the guy behind the microphone there joins us now here on WMAY, William J. Kelly. You can find him on Twitter, William J. Kelly, or on his website as well. William, thanks for taking time this morning. Let's get right on into it. What did you find out on the streets?
God bless you, Greg. Thank you. Well, you know, there's a very, very big difference and a very big double standard between what I hear from migrants on the street and what I hear from actual citizens, voters, police officers, night and day. Their feeling is that they are being attacked and defunded. And Governor Pritzker, for whatever reason, and there's a lot of speculation I could share with you, but for whatever reason, seems to want to fund non-citizen police officers.
And, of course, this bill is on the governor's desk, and he could be acting on it soon. There's like 465 bills on the governor's desk, a range of different issues. But we'll be watching closely to see when this thing ultimately comes to fruition and how it comports with federal law. Your understanding of that kind of dynamic, that juxtaposition, is this something that's going to violate federal law?
Well, you know, as you know, Greg, you know, what we're told from one day to the next apparently can change. I remember being told that we needed 2 weeks to flatten a curve. And then next thing I knew, the entire state was shut down, schools, churches, businesses, and children were driven to suicide. You know, so what Governor Pritzker says and what he does tends to be two different things, especially when he can say that there's an emergency that needs to be override the Constitution or the checks and balances of the legislature, et cetera. Although, I mean, as I'm sure, as you know better than anybody, you know, we have a one-party rule in the state of Illinois, a supermajority in the House and the Senate. This bill to make non-citizens police officers with arrest power over citizens, it has already passed the House and Senate. I know you already said that, but I have to repeat it because people don't believe it. It's too shocking to them, you know. And so, will Pritzker sign this bill? Well, I don't know. Ask yourself: was Pritzker willing to shut down the entire state of Illinois and force healthy, productive people to stay home from their schools, churches, and businesses? Yeah. I think promoting non-citizen police officers is exactly what Pritzker is all about.
Well,
and
keep in mind, too, I mean, former Governor Rauner signed a measure that essentially said local law enforcement can't enforce immigration detainers if that's the sole reason for approaching somebody. Governor Pritzker expanded that with further legislation. And that, you know, those are federal immigration detainer orders that are federal law, and immigration is under the federal auspice of regulation. So, yeah, it's interesting to see how this idea is going to comport with the issue of complying with federal law. William, again, I want to share with people just a little snippet of the man on the street you did yesterday or this week, asking migrants. So tune into this, and you can find the entire 3-minute video at William J. Kelly on Twitter.
I speak English. Espanol.
Governor Pritzker of Illinois is about to sign a new bill allowing migrants to become police officers. How do you feel about that?
Sorry, no, I speak English.
Where are you from?
Seattle.
Do you speak English? Hello.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that you spoke to some migrants and you found some guy from Seattle who obviously speaks English. William, obviously you went to one location where migrants are being housed at a luxurious hotel. There's news of more migrant housing shelters that are going to be opened up. Give us the latest lay on the land. How many migrants have come to the Chicago area from the southern border?
Well, the number, this is part of the problem, Greg. Numbers don't seem to mean anything to our current political leaders, whether it's the mayor of Chicago, the governor of Illinois. One day it's one number, the next day you find out that number has tripled. Whether it's the number of migrants or the millions of dollars that are being spent. This is an out of control problem. Okay, let's just put it that way. What is it's kind of like how much water is on the deck of the Titanic. Let's put it this way: out of control. Okay, so it hurts as not only a reporter, but as somebody who was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, somebody who loves Chicago. And I have to repeat that because I don't ever want to sound like I don't ever want anyone to think that this is somehow bashing Chicago. I love Chicago with all of my heart. I remember being proud of Chicago, beaming with pride about Chicago, the way, Bostonians beam with pride about Boston, for example. The problem is Chicago can't fake it anymore. The areas of Chicago, the Magnificent Mile, the tourist areas of the city, have been overrun, and they're not safe. Last night in Lakeview, you had one of what they call a street takeover of hundreds of people. If you've ever been in the middle of something like that, either as a reporter or just as a pedestrian or a motorist, you realize that you are just literally one honk of the horn away from having your car flipped over or torched. It really is. And I don't know, who do you call when something like that happens? Do you call the police? Well, I'm getting people telling me now that if they give migrants guns and badges, they're just going to have to take the law into their own hands. They're not going to call the police because that would only make it worse. This is what I'm hearing from, get this, Black and brown citizens of Chicago. This is not what I'm hearing from, these elusive, MAGA, people in Chicago. No, this is what I'm hearing from Black and brown citizens of Chicago. If the next time they've got an emergency, they're not going to call the police and have a couple of Venezuelans showing up with guns and badges. No. They're going to handle it themselves.
William J. Kelly with us. Of course, we don't want to condone vigilantism or anything along those lines, but the reality on the street there, people are going to have to contend with. And something else people are going to have to contend with, it's not just the influx of migrants from the southern border. Chicagoans also dealing with NASCAR. They've got the street race coming up in just a handful of days here. Chicago Street Race Weekend, July 1st and the 2nd. What are you hearing, and how's this looking on the streets?
Well, for the downtown residents that, once again, growing up on the South Side, the idea of going downtown was almost an impossible dream. I didn't even know whether or not it would ever be possible for me to get from the South Side of Chicago to downtown Chicago, now that I live downtown, I'm really, it really is a little bit of an impossible dream nightmare because between the migrants and the street closures, it has become almost impossible to even navigate downtown Chicago. And it just makes me, what I'm hearing again from regular citizens, as I do my man on the street, is it just seems like absolutely nothing that our quote unquote leaders, political leaders, business and community leaders, absolutely nothing that they do is designed to make the lives of the citizens better. It's only designed to make the lives of migrants or some other, entity better, but not the citizens. And, I had I studied political science right alongside of journalism at Loyola University and that was my ticket out of the South Side to get downtown and to the town that I love. And my understanding of service is that the whole point of anything that you do, whether it's in politics or media, is to provide a service to other people, right? and so it is just a double, a nightmare, an impossible dream turned impossible nightmare, that nothing that our mayor or our governor or any of our other business or community or political leaders seem to be doing is providing any service for the actual tax-paying citizens of our city and our state.
William, you've got the migrant issue, you've got NASCAR, and you also have President Joe Biden visiting Wednesday. And what do you think how do you think the message of the economy is going to be received by Chicagoans there?
Well, as I'm sure you do too, I get business leaders calling me, and they're frantic. They are closing. They're closing businesses. They're talking to me about moving their businesses. The occupancy rate, or I should say the lack of occupancy rate in downtown Chicago is mind-boggling. Absolutely nothing coming out of our city, state, or national or federal government is improving that. Once again, everything that all of the policies that are being put forward, all the rhetoric that's being put forth, is actually discouraging our citizens. When you look at, when you think back even just a few years to downtown Chicago, you saw people, bustling to work in a suit and a tie, with a steely looking glance in their eye, but they had a dream they were trying to they were striving towards. You don't see that now, okay? And it is just palpable, Greg, and it's heartbreaking.
William J. Kelly. Find him at William J. Kelly on Twitter, and you can see his On the Streets reports. Greatly appreciate your time, as always, and we'll talk again soon, all right?
God bless you. Thank you, Greg.
It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. Coming back, we'll hear Governor J.B. Pritzker's take on President Joe Biden set to visit Chicago, so stay tuned. We'll touch on that and also revisit what Congressman Darin LaHood said about the president's visit to Chicago. So that's on. Talking with William J. Kelly last segment about all the things coming to Chicago, from migrants to NASCAR and even President Joe Biden. He will be in Chicago on Wednesday for an official speech about the economy, but he'll also be there at a fundraiser. Governor J.B. Pritzker playing a role in that fundraiser. He was asked about the visit from Biden during an unrelated event yesterday.
Only that we're excited to have him come to town, and of course we'll have a very successful fundraiser for him with a ton of support. I mean, he is well liked in Illinois and in Chicago, and there are lots of folks who are stepping forward to help his reelection campaign.
So Governor Pritzker saying that Biden is well liked in Illinois and in Chicago. But when I talked with Congressman Darin LaHood yesterday, he shared some of his thoughts on the speech that Biden plans to give about the economy, what the White House called Bidenomics. And the White House talked about, hey, inflation's lower than it has been, and that needs to be told to the American people. So Biden's going to use that speech Wednesday to highlight that. But Congressman LaHood, he said he wants to see instead focus on lower taxes and lower government spending, and also energy independence.
I think for one thing, you got to look at how do we get back to energy independence in this country, where we're producing our own energy. So much of our inflationary problems as it relates to businesses and manufacturing and companies and individuals is energy independence, getting back to that. So we're not relying on our foreign adversaries. That the spike in energy has, because of the Ukraine conflict and not producing domestic amounts of energy, I think contributed to that. That's number one. Number two, I think also looking at the tax policies that we have in this country, the way we've been spending money. We're $32 trillion in debt. It's part of the reason why I didn't vote for the debt ceiling raising is because of those policies. So I think it's focusing on spending and reducing that. And then secondly, it's getting back to energy independence. That's what we ought to be focused on.
But LaHood also talked about the unanswered questions that the Biden family has to answer when it comes to that series of whistleblowers that are coming out saying that, listen, Hunter Biden was sitting right next to his father demanding money from Chinese oligarchs. Here's what LaHood said the Biden administration and Biden himself has to answer on behalf of his family.
They didn't allow the IRS agents and other investigatory bodies to look into Hunter Biden. And it's revealing on the direct connection between Hunter Biden and his dad. Secondly, Hunter Biden with Chinese entities, Romanian entities, Ukrainian entities.
So a lot of things going on up in Chicago. And, of course, we'll do what we can to unpack what the president had to say in his visit Wednesday. We'll do that Thursday morning. It is Springfield's Morning News. Follow me anywhere, Bishop on Air. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Just search Bishop on Air, and we can connect that.